In today's video, I'm going to show you how to clear part 7 of this red golem raid boss, so Betelgigas. Now, when this raid first came out, I have already created a guide on part 6 and it was really free to play friendly team. I think I used like 4 SR units, etc. So if you do have trouble beating part 7 even after watching my video today, then do check out my previous video. I'll post a link in the description below and you should be able to comfortably clear part 6 no problem using my previous guide. The strategy is still the same, it's just the lineup is slightly different because obviously the team is a lot harder. So I do have to use better character or at least like enhanced character. So you do see I'm using like full full SSR team with like radius, Noel, etc. And also I do have some really high enhanced. My Junius is enhanced 5. My William is also enhanced 5. Um, I'm still free to play, by the way. So in case you're wondering, why last time I called it free to play lineup, but this time I'm not. It's not because I spent anything, right? If you actually look at the events, you can see my first purchase bonus still on, so that shows I haven't actually bought anything in this game. So still very much free to play. It just felt a bit silly to call this team free to play if I, I actually have, so many characters at LR5, etc. Even though juniors, hopefully all of you have been using your universal dupes, and William, as long as you have one copy, he should always be your first priority when you're doing the world affinity farming, etc. But it just feels a bit silly to me to actually call this a free to play team, even though the characters are kind of fully maxed out, etc. But anyway, back to the strategy. So in terms of the what you want to do is basically you want to take a look at what this boss is able to do. Basically, for the first phase, the boss is able to stun you and also do an extra attack if you do not have a barrier. So that's kind of why I am bringing the 2 barrier users, so both Noel and also Radius. If you have Kahona, I'm sure she would also work as well. Lotus is to make sure you always slow down the enemy, and Mimosa is there for the healing because just barrier by itself is not enough. Now, if you're doing part 6, just Lotus and Mimosa is able to duo the first phase easily, but for part 7, the damage output is too high and you do need the barrier user. So that's kind of the lineup for the first phase. For the second phase, the strategy is basically to take a look at the boss. Basically, what the boss does is he has basically have this skill which basically goes berserk for the first 2 turns, and then afterwards it goes into exhaustion mode where he will be taking extra damage. So basically the idea here is that you want to buff up and also debuff the enemy for the first turn, and then second turn after the boss have attack and into this exhaustion mode where you're able to do extra damage, you try to one shot and just kill off the boss really quickly. So that's kind of the idea for this. In terms of the auto setup, you definitely want to auto at least for the phase 1 because it takes a really long time. You're trying to out sustain the boss. I know there's also a solution for beating it quicker with Rhya, but I don't have Rhya, and so if you do not have Rhya, the easiest way is actually to just use barrier users and healers to out sustain the boss. So now because the boss is going to do extra attack, etc., when you don't have barrier, you really want your barrier to be always on. So that's kind of why at the start of the battle, I actually chose to for my radius to use skill 1 for the very first turn to make sure my barrier actually go on alternating turns and my radius and Noel doesn't just happen to put up all the barrier at the same time. For Lotus, I'll be just slowing down with my special skill. If you're not lucky enough to land the reduced speed debuff, then just simply restart the battle. It's very easy to restart, just 5 seconds to see whether you land the debuff or not. And then afterwards, you can always extend that debuff duration with his skill 2, so you always have that speed advantage over the boss. Now for Mimosa, she's just there for healing. Every now and then, one of your teammates may actually die, but don't worry, your Mimosa do have the special skill to just bring them back alive again. And as long as you actually time it right with another barrier which happens to be at the same time, then you can pretty much bring back your dead teammate back to full health straight away. So this is very safe choice for you to out sustain the phase 1 boss. Now for phase 2, like I said, first turn you kind of just want to make sure you do loads of buff and debuff, etc. But that's kind of why I have my Charlotte to use her skill 2 first. and then combine attack on the second turn. The idea here is that the debuff on skill 2 actually take have a duration of 2 turns, whereas a combined attack, the incapacitate only have 1 turn. So that's kind of why you want to do skill 2 first and combine attack afterwards. For William, what you want to do is you want to do damage reduction for the first turn and then speed up and also attacking buff on juniors for the second turn when juniors are actually about to use the nuke. And as for juniors, you want to use skill 1 first rather than skill 2. And the reason why I'm doing all of this, and also the reason why I'm not buffing up juniors straight away, is because you don't want your juniors to be too much faster. Because when juniors goes too fast, he would actually overtake Charlotte in the second turn, and then you're not able to land that combined attack debuff for that incapacitate beforehand. So that's kind of why if you do actually, decide to buff up Junior speed first, or Junior's use skill 2, which then buff up his own speed, what's going to happen is Junior's is going to catch up to Charlotte and then therefore actually overtake Charlotte. So that's something you want to avoid, and that's kind of why you definitely want Junior's to use skill 1 first on the first turn and then use special skill when you have all the buff and debuff. Charmy is just there for constant healing. It doesn't really matter which one you do first. I mean, provided your HP gears on Charmy is good enough, you should just be able to fall back to full HP anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. Now, I'll just briefly show you the gear requirement as well, because basically the boss hits extremely hard, and so a lot of time you're going for more defensive build rather than anything else. So for example, for Lotus, what you can see is I'm going for like half defense and half magic attack build. And similarly, if I go to my Noel, you can see I'm also going kind of half magic attack, half defense build, and that's basically what you really need for both of them to actually survive the very first attack by the boss in phase 1. Now, as for Mimosa and also Radius, you can just go full magic attack build because they actually have that color advantage, so they don't need to worry too much about surviving. And it works for them to have that high magic attack because that makes their barrier stronger or their healing stronger. But that's kind of the setup you want on phase 1. For phase 2, what you want to do is, once again, you want to go for defense rather than anything else. So with them, you can see here I'm going for a full HP build. For my Charmy, I'm also going for full HP, but that's more for healing aspect. This allows me to almost heal back my whole team to full HP with an ult or with a skill 2, etc. I think. And then for Charlotte, it's very important for you to outspeed your Lotus, so that's kind of what I do recommend for you to do at least the 4-piece on speed to make sure you are always able to outspeed Julius even after Julius get that speed buff from William. But as for the other 2-piece, once again, prioritize defense first, so that's kind of why I have those 2 defense pieces. And as for Julius himself, because I'm using William to buff him up, you want to do an attack build rather than a magic attack build, and this is kind of the build I went for, which is just 2 of the attack piece, and also I have 1 which is for increased crit damage on special skill. Even though I think in the demo later I didn't even land the crit, but it doesn't really matter. Mainly because, maybe this is also the reason why I have maxed out on all of the talents on Julius. And basically what you see in my demo later is that even the combined attack with Charlotte was able to do like 30 or 40% of boss HP. So I didn't really need to crit. I can just do 1 combined attack and 1 special skill, and that is guaranteed for me to kill off the boss. If you do not have them completely leveled up, you may actually rely on crit a bit. And if that's really the case, you may actually consider maybe even swapping William out for, let's say, if you want to do Sally, and if you do play Sally and use her skill 2 to buff up Julius, what you don't want to do is make sure your Julius is on a magic attack build rather than attack build. But yeah, that's basically how you can be part 7 of the raid boss. I'm going to show you the clip now.